Hey there, and welcome to Your Worth, Your Way, the podcast that's all about helping you understand that you are worthy of prioritizing your joy without feeling selfish or guilty. I'm Debbie Lucas, the Joy Alchemist, and each week I'll be bringing you honest, heartfelt conversations with incredible guests, coaches, thought leaders, and soulful humans who'll share their stories and insights on self worth, confidence, personal growth, and how to live a life that feels authentically yours. This isn't about quick fixes or cookie cutter advice. It's about real talk, practical takeaways, and plenty of soulful inspiration to help you live life your way. So grab your favorite cuppa, get comfy, and let's dive into today's episode. Today, I am joined by the calming Cindy Marie Azur, who believes that unstoppable isn't just a word, it's a way of life. Cindy Marie is a multi-passionate coach, singer, speaker, and podcast host who transformed from people pleaser to a purpose-driven trailblazer. Having lived in 5 countries, Cindy Marie brings a wealth of global experience to empower others and to break limits, embrace their unique voice, and become truly unstoppable. And today we're diving into authenticity, resilience, optimism, and leadership, understanding that it is safe to be you. And when you focus on your own growth, journey, mission, and purpose in life, you're able to serve the best version of you and contribute to making a positive impact on this planet. I love speaking with you, Cindy Marie, and I was a guest on your podcast, and I'm delighted to have you on mine as well. So I know a little bit about you, but I'd love for you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your story and what led to the work that you're doing now.
Thank you so much, Debbie. Really, really appreciate this opportunity. And for your listeners or our listeners and audience, as what Debbie introduced, I was a people pleaser. How that happened? Basically, I was the only one born outside the Philippines in South Africa. And then when my mom brought me back to the Philippines or brought me to Philippines, little by little, I started to experience sort of different treatment. We have this terminology like favoritism.
Mhm.
So my mom, my grandma, and my aunt, they have their special treatment with the niece or grandchild, except me. And as a child, you would like to observe. I was observing, monitoring, and checking. Okay, well, I want some love too, belongingness and care. And I realized, okay, things are like having great grades, participating in extracurricular activities, doing house chores, even though I was stubborn when I was young. But I recognize that, okay, you want some love, you want some care, you want some special treatment, then do these things.
Mm.
So obviously, the people pleaser impacted my entire being from childhood to adulthood, right? But I must say, Debbie, even when I was younger, deep inside of me, I've already have this special skill, I would say, negotiation. I love to negotiate because I remember when I was in high school, as a people pleaser, okay, auntie, what do you want me to do? I will obey. And she said, well, you can't have a boyfriend. You have to finish your college. I said, because most of my siblings, they have. I said, well, okay. But then you allow me to do my extracurricular activities. Those are the singing and the dancing and all of those things. And she said, okay, just be careful of yourself because I was part of the music band, lead singer, and most of them were boys. So I have to be careful. And usually we came back home late, and that led me to be comfortable and confident a little bit more and more about who I am. However, the people pleaser is still a very strong presence in my life, and I think it has impacted my validation of being who I am, from romantic relationship to friendship and even going to the work. You want to be part of the cool group, so you kind of I've been very observant person, and I love to monitor, okay, who are the coolest people, what do they do, how can I be like that, how can I be part of that cool group. And I also had the opportunity to move and get the job and really recognizing and rediscovering myself in Singapore for almost 13 years. Through that, fast forward in the last company that I have worked with, last corporate job that I had was a media streaming company. I was really involved with operations. That actually really gave me the confidence of doing the podcast because
Mhm.
while I was in the operations, I was so on hand with our team to do the processing of the films, the marketing, and the metadata or the description, the subtitles, the dubs, all of those things led me to where the podcast born, right? But at that time, I have zero background. But I was just so determined that I want to get away, get out from the previous company. And I got the chance because they were constantly looking for staff. And so I discovered that, oh my God, I really love to be involved in operation because I'm a very result driven person. So if you give me timeline, I'll make sure that it's going to happen. And so you can imagine, okay, how this person actually moving her career with being a people pleaser, right? Meaning to say that I just allow myself to be not talking and just delivering. But through this job, actually, Debbie, I started having this battle. I don't know if you have experienced this, that the people pleaser and the voice inside of me telling me that you have to get out, you have to speak up more. And then the other one's like, but how? You're gonna lose all of these people, all of these things. And I'm like, the thing that constantly elevating at that moment was really to speak the truth. And I've been battling myself to seek for validation from all the companies that I have worked with because of that childhood trauma that I had. And at that moment, I realized that, hang on a second, because now I have a different definition or description of high
Mhm.
performer. Back then, it's all about proving to other people that I'm competent, I'm successful, I am independent woman. But now it's all about doing the right things to do and being ambitious in loving and purpose-driven way, that you're doing all of these things for the purpose of helping people, no longer as, seeking validation. But going to that work, I asked myself, well, is this what it take for me to really climb the ladder, that I am refusing the authentic me, I'm refusing my inner voice, I'm refusing the real me? And the body obviously said no, it's not you, because I got burnout for almost 1 week. And I'm very grateful at that time, and always still, my husband has always been supportive with my journey. And I quit the job, no backup, no plan B. I explored, I experimented, and I became more adventurous in terms of what can I do. And then, oh my God, I never knew that a coaching exists as a profession or a business that we can build. I told myself, I wish I would have known that in the early years, even though, I was already handling a team. We're already doing that. But I never knew that coaching exists as a profession
Mhm.
individually. And when I dive deeper, I'm like, oh my God, this is so amazing. So you get certified, as we all do. And then I hire my own coach. And then I always say this, that coaching is just a tipping toe of everything else.
Mhm.
Because through coaching, I discover my curiosity and spiritual journey. And I'm like, oh my God, there are so many things. And my curiosity just keep on increasing, the level of, I want to know more. I want to experience more. And while exploring and experimenting all of these things, I knew, Debbie, that my gift is my voice. And I told myself, well, how can I expand or share the voice in me in any form so I can be of great service? So coaching, pop up, okay, done. Podcast came into the picture, done. And then the other thing that I told myself that I've always kind of dimmed the light is my singing.
Mhm.
Because, back then when you're younger, you just want to be part of the cool group. If
Mhm.
they don't have such things, you just want to dim that. And I knew myself that I'm a very multi-talented person. And I'm not saying this out of arrogance. It's really about how can I share it more? And so I told myself that, okay, that's another part of me. The voice is singing. So then I combine that with everything that I do. And then the other thing that we have discussed back then, and even before this interview, we all have individual, unique story to share. And knowing myself as I embrace my authenticity and speak up, even though it's scary, I just have the feeling and or the pull that you're gonna step more, the first steps for everyone. And I said, okay, well, what else can I do with that? Well, share your story. I said, okay, be vulnerable. Okay, be honest. Okay. And so I said, I have no problem with that because I felt that, and still is, there's a constant guidance coming from everywhere telling me, you've got to step in more. And I know that it's scary, but we've got you. And so I said, okay, well, let me share my story then. And that's how the public speaking, allowing me to just speak up and be myself. And I know I'm not for everyone, and that's okay. You know, you tune in with the people resonate with you. But my main message of stepping up and sharing my story is that allowing people that it is safe to be you. And it is also okay that you will start to lose people that representing your old version so that the new people that will truly support you in your new journey will come to you in your door and support you all the way. And if I can be that tool, even though it's scary, I'll take it so that, you know, we all can do it. I'm a big believer that we are all powerful, but we've got to do the work and embrace that the power is within us. And so that's what I've been doing and allowing people to embrace that you've got the power within you and let's do it and be unstoppable.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing your journey. And as you and I've discussed on the podcast and off the podcast, so much of our journeys, are similar and resonate in terms of, where we've come from. And I think, that bit about, you talking about kind of performing for love and acceptance when you were that little girl, is something I think that so many of us can really relate to. And I think, then kind of how that it was, so important to hear your journey of how that impacted your relationships in your adult life, every relationship, from friendships, from romantic relationships to your job and your career. And we know that, in the corporate world, and there's nothing wrong with people working in the corporate world, but it's kind of perpetuated because your value is linked to your performance. And so that what you grew up with, in your childhood, is then just completely perpetuated and reinforced over time. And I'm not saying that every single person who goes on a spiritual healing journey needs to step out from the corporate world. If it makes you happy and it brings you joy, absolutely go for that. But I think, you know, that the shift that resonates with me is from moving from that people pleaser to that purpose driven bit is so similar to my journey, where I think I can't remember if I spoke about this in our interview on your podcast, but I remember the day where I realized that me serving others and me helping others, I could still do that, but that my worth wasn't linked to it. That I that yes, I am still here to be useful. I am still here to help other people. But before, when I was in my people pleasing era, it was very much like, if I'm not being helpful, then I'm feeling worthless. And that was my own story. No, nobody actually ever told me that. And I think it's such a beautiful way to see that, you could feel the shift in your energy as you talked us through that part of your life there. And then I think the bit that you spoke about in terms of, like, your body saying no, the burnout that you hit. And I think, your body will have been giving you signals for a long time, and like me, you're able to recognize it now looking back. But when we're living in that kind of hustle culture, the unconscious, we're just kind of going along with what we think we should be doing, we tune out of our body and we just can't tap into that. And I think, you know the bit where you're talking about resigning with no backup, no plan B, I did resign at the start of 2025, but I did have a backup plan, and I did have a plan B. And it's only very recently that I recognized that I thought I was being sensible, that I was being logical, but actually I was still telling myself and and the universe and my future self, I don't trust you enough to know that things will work out. So kudos to you
Thank
for taking the absolute leap of faith with no apparent safety net below you. But I love how you've absolutely alchemized, and that's the language that I use, transformed your experiences, your talents, your
you.
beautiful, beautiful talents, and your beautiful voice into helping other people and to bringing joy to the world with your singing, etc. So you spoke about unstoppable, and you really do, and from what you've shared, your determination comes through so strongly. You know, you absolutely embody that word. So, if for somebody who's feeling stuck right now, for someone who's feeling quite small, but kind of ready to, they feel like they want to step into more, they want to be more, do more, but kind of feeling really stuck with that. What does being unstoppable look like for you in your day to day, and how can other women embody that in just small bite-sized chunks?
Thank you. As I was just listening, the first thing that came to mind that many of us disregard or neglect, and we talked about it, you know, embracing and embodying our inner child. I feel that when you ask me that question, I want to share something not just out of different, but really what we missed out most of the times. Because the moment that we are on our inner child, you embody that and you feel like, I'm unstoppable, right? You're such a hero. You can do everything. So I would say for everyone listening right now, you are already powerful within you, really, really. However, that inner child of you is waiting for you to acknowledge her that I'm here. Let's play. If you just play out of curiosity, out of fun, without any of these things that we are living in this material world, little by little, I can guarantee you will feel elevated. And then you just kind of, okay, let me call my inner child again tomorrow. So she will embody everything that I don't have right now, you know? And the most important thing I've learned that you have, and this one, it takes a lot of work, but you kind of can get it. You have to have the right support system, really.
Mhm.
If people don't see the values that you're embodying and they kind of have that condemning you or kind of like have a side statement, you know how you feel after that conversation, you're kind of belittling yourself again. That's not the kind of right people that you want to be in your surrounding, because those people who are right for you, they will support you in all the crazy things that you do. And these are the people that you want to be keep on surrounding yourself, because they will allow you to be who you truly are. And the moment that you can express, especially being the child version of yourself, that's amazing. Because I think in our world right now, as we move to adult place, and in fact, we just talked about it, my husband and I, yesterday. I told him that, I just really love to embody my inner child. And he was not like that before, like playful. And now you can see him because I allow him to be playful, as fun as a child version of himself, like I do. So, going back to your question, I think, I believe it's critical that we start to embody our inner child.
Oh, I love that so much. Like that has just spoken to me. Like that, because I'm all about joy, and joy, you cultivate joy by having fun. But I think when you were talking, something came to me, and it's a saying, and I don't know where I've read this, but it's like, you have the confidence of a 3-year-old dressed in a superhero costume. because
Yes.
there's nothing more confident, more unstoppable, than, whether it's a Disney princess costume or whether it's a superhero costume, it doesn't really matter, but they are in the moment, they are unstoppable. And I've got goosebumps even just imagining it. And I think, there's the other saying that is, do you grow old because you stop playing? Or do you stop playing because
Yes.
you grow old, or do you grow old because you stop playing? And I think that's so, so important. And I think, by allowing yourself to have that, unadulterated fun, to have that uninhibited fun, that's the bit we were often told when we were little: you're too much, you're too, you're too
Mm.
loud, you're too, whatever, to insert whatever people told you. And I think when we can start nurturing that back within ourselves, you can just sense the unstoppableness, if that's even a word, coming through. And you and I have spoken on our episode, on your episode, on your podcast as well, about that, about inner child
Yes.
healing and the inner child work, and it's such a critical part of it. And I think, that bit about being curious, that kind of really spoke to me as well, because when we can get curious about ourselves, about the world, about other people, we're coming from a non-judgmental perspective, we're coming from that openness to
Mm.
anything is possible. And certainly when we get curious about our beliefs, our feelings, our emotions, our behaviors, and I start with ourselves, because that's always where the work starts, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's when we can kind of see things objectively and kind of take a step away, and kind of look at it from above, rather than kind of being stuck in the moment or in that emotion or in that feeling. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh, you're most welcome. Glad to be helpful with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
feel like it's just needed
uh,
to share again and all over again.
absolutely. And I think one of the things that I would like to kind of tap back into that you spoke about earlier, was the bit around, and you and I have spoken about this so much as well, is that, that relationships, friendships, potentially even familial relationships,
Yeah.
as we go on this journey, that sometimes, people drop away. Sometimes it's a conscious decision to either, cut the energetic ties altogether, and separate, or sometimes it's about setting just a boundary there.
Mm.
And I think that can be one of the tricky things. And you spoke about that as well. Like, if I start speaking up for myself, asking for what I want, setting the boundary, or kind of speaking out in terms of, anything that you have going on in your mind, that can feel really, really scary.
Yes.
Because when we've been people pleasers, when our validation and our self-worth has been so linked to how other people respond to us, your ego is kicking and screaming like, no, it's not safe, it's so
Yeah.
scary. So was there anything that helped you to overcome that kind of that fear, to really start setting the boundaries, to separate yourself from people who brought the negative energy and weren't cheering you on from the sidelines?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Uh, this is part of my observation as well, outside or even in a coaching environment. You mentioned it very clearly, ego.
Mm.
If we allow the ego to take control, that's where all of those things that you want to take control will not happen. Meaning to say, you set a boundary today, but your ego is still very strong. The next day, you'll come back to that because the ego is still very strong, that constantly taking control. Now, in my own experience, and I know this is too extreme for many to hear this, but I think you mentioned it earlier as well, that I just let go. I literally surrender. It's not easy. It's not easy, really. But the faith and the belief that someone or some group of whatever will take care of that, it's amazing because of the friendship, the romantic relationship, whatever, the familiar places, the familiar environment that I have built in Singapore for almost 12 years. Most of the people I no longer have a contact with because that was my old version.
Mm.
And it's not easy. But the thing that always reminds me is that, would you like to move on or not? Because this is our free will. No one will push you to go forward. If you feel really, this is I always say to people, if you really feel happy, really happy inside of you, where you are, by all means, stay
Mhm,
there.
mhm.
But the reality, we don't, right? But the thing that I would say and leave this message to everyone, just what I said earlier, if you don't allow yourself to leave that space open for the universe to give the right people for you, it's not going to happen. But just, you have to believe. You have to really let go. You have to give up. And trust me, as a high performer person and really control freak back then, really, Debbie, I was a control freak back then. Just surrendering, it's a big deal. But if you really want to experience the real peace, the real joy, the real happiness for long term, I'll tell you, do that
Mm.
slowly and embrace. I think don't be afraid to show whatever you feel. Just embrace it. Acknowledge that you're feeling whatever you're feeling, and then reminding yourself, I've got to go through with it, but tomorrow I'll be fine. So now I'm feeling like this, crying, whatever. As we experience, embrace that because that's who you are anyway. Embrace everything part of you, the good, the pleasant, the unpleasant. But that's what I'm gonna share to my answer to your question because we tend to refuse to understand that we are gonna go through with the pain and suffering. That's just part of it. But the beauty of that, if you reflect that the pain and suffering as a fuel, as your growth, I'll tell you, you no longer see that as negative. You're no longer in the victim mindset. You're going to see that, oh, this is how the universe see me. I'm that strong? Really? Okay, come on, let's do it together. At least that's how I usually think now.
Absolutely. And I think, again, so much of what you said was resonating, the bit that again it brings the curiosity into it. Like when, it's okay to feel the feelings, every feeling and every emotion, even the anger, the rage, the frustration, the sadness, the grief is all valid. And it all serves a purpose either to show us what still needs to be healed or to hold the mirror up in terms of our reality and what's going on. And if our reality is a result of every decision that we've made before people start on this healing journey, those decisions are generally unconscious. But
Mm,
once, as you say, once we become aware, once we become conscious of how we're living our lives, and once we're able to surrender to, what's happening and trusting that it's all working out for our higher good and higher purpose, is so, so important. And I think one of the things that you spoke about earlier on was that bit of, like you kind of started on this journey and was life coaching and learning about that kind of opened up this journey and was exactly the same for me. But then and I've worked with multiple coaches, and I'm sure you have now as well, for ourselves, because we're
yeah.
always on this healing journey. And I think, I'm only gosh, maybe 4 years into this journey now, truly into this journey, and when I, kind of been more conscious of what I'm doing in terms of my own development, but I feel like it's speeding up. And I feel like, because we have had those coaches who went before us, and always see there's them holding up the light and lighting the path for us that we can get there quicker. And we're kind of stepping into that role and kind of holding the light for the women who are coming behind us. And it's just this kind of collective movement. I'm getting goosebumps here. I'm kind of feeling like I'm being channeled here. Like it's this collective movement forward. It's like a surge. And I think because we're each of us are helping the other get there quicker and quicker and quicker, we're getting to a state now where the world, and I said this in your introduction, making the planet a better place, making the world a better place, especially when we've got such sadness and heartache and all the atrocities that are happening across the world right now, but that we're still shining our light, that we're still forging that path ahead for ourselves and for each other. And I think, so joy is a massive focus of this podcast and the work that I do and the work that you do and all my guests do. So I always like to ask my guests, what is one way that you intentionally create joy in your everyday life? And what advice would you give someone who really struggles to do that, even in the smallest moments?
I don't know how we gonna use the imagination, I would say, because not everyone would have access to the nature. But if you have access directly with the nature, spend as frequent as possible with the nature. Nature is your free cure for everything in the quickest way. Now, if you don't have easy access with the nature, just imagine, close your eyes. And as Debbie and I, we've been doing the proper breathing, calm yourself and have that sense of imagination where exactly the last time that you felt so joyful. Just imagine that. If you can't do that by closing your eyes, just look at something like your favorite thing, whatever that is. And then just object. Imagine that this object will bring you to the place where you last feel so joyful. And then embody that. And then as you allow yourself to embody and living like you're now flying or going to a different dimension or different universe, whatever, just be there. Allow yourself to recall all the beautiful things, how you felt the joyful at that moment, and just be at peace. I mean, I won't say that everyone's piece of joy will be different. Some people piece of joy will be really noisy, loud. So I think that imagination will bring you there. And then I would say that the moment that you have experienced that, something will pop out or something will create an idea what you can do next. Some people would say, I feel like I'm gonna just play the drum. I feel like I wanna play my guitar. Oh, I just feel like I just wanna have a take a bath, whatever. But I would say that's what I could suggest to people having struggled to find easiest but efficient and doable. We
Yeah,
love doable, right?
yes,
Take
yes,
action right away. I
yeah.
don't think that's difficult. Um, but just remember the first thing that you must do, though, just have a breathe,
Mm-hmm.
probably 3 times,
Mm-hmm.
like a really slowing your body condition, and then do that activity and see where it goes. But the other thing is really spend time with the nature if you have access, please. It's
Yeah.
amazing place to go.
Yeah, and I love the bit like coming back to the imagination, but because it's so portable, you don't need any
Yes.
tools. You can use your mind on a train, walking down the street, on a
Yes.
plane, and in an office. You can literally just, as you say, you've got your breath, still quiet, and I suppose if you can't get to nature's play nature sounds, even just for 5 minutes, a forest sound,
Yeah.
you can find plenty of them on YouTube and Spotify with the waves crashing if that's what soothes you, because you can imagine yourself back there. When I hear waves crashing, it always takes me back to my childhood summers,
Mm.
staying in a caravan at the beach and just carefree, absolute joy, sun shining, you know,
Mhm.
skin golden brown, just, like just no care in the world. And so thank you so much for sharing that. That was a really helpful tip that I think people can use anytime, anywhere.
Yeah. Glad to be helpful and sharing the way that been helpful for me as well.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you again. And I thank you so much for sharing your story and insights, Cindy Marie. And I think, there were so many, many takeaways, but one thing that really stood out for me was your discussion around the unstoppableness in terms of embracing your inner child and kind of
Mm.
living that in the moment, because I know I felt it, I'm sure my listeners felt the unstoppableness that came with that share there. So I'm sure that most of all my listeners will want to find out more about you and what you do. So where's the best place that people can find you and learn more about your work?
Sure. In website, they can look at cindymarie.net. They can email me there at contact@cindymarie.net. Or if you like to check out what other inspirational, motivational, and unstoppable tips, you can follow me at social, Cindy Marie Azur.
Brilliant. And we'll share all the links to that in the show notes as always for everybody to kind of find you quite easily. Well, it was a delight to have you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure and amazing to catch up again with you in this podcast platform.
And yeah, of course, you've got your own podcast as well, so we'll
Oh,
add a
yes.
link to that. Yeah, so go and check out my conversation with Cindy Marie. It was quite a pleasure to be the guest for a change and not the interviewer, but it was a wonderful conversation, as is all of Cindy Marie's guests as well. So please go and check that out too.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Your Worth Your Way. I know that you'll be walking away feeling inspired and ready to embrace your worth and prioritize your joy. If you love this episode, I'd be so grateful if you could leave a review or share it with someone who needs a little bit of encouragement today. And don't forget to hit that follow button so you never miss another episode. And you can connect with me, find out more about the podcast, my guests, and what I do at debbielucas.me/links. And if you don't already, follow me on your favorite social media platform. I'd love to hear your thoughts and continue the conversation there. And until next time, remember that you are worthy exactly as you are.